Welcome to Meeple Mythos. I am Nick, and today we're doing our first podcast. So this is an exciting one for me because I've always wanted to do a podcast. And I figured now that I've started this channel, the best thing I could do is do a podcast about board games. Because who doesn't want to talk about board games? So today's episode, we are going to cover some gencon news, followed by some deep dives on some games. But really, I just wanted to welcome you guys to the channel. For those of you who have subscribed, who plan on subscribing, welcome. I'm excited for what's to come next. I'm going to be sharing a lot of insights on this particular podcast. But the idea is to do one a week, preferably where I posted it on a Friday, but we're going to see. I am a high school teacher, so we're starting school back up pretty soon. And so I'm going to see how hectic it gets, along with trying to keep up some videos as we go into the school year. So the goal is one podcast per week, followed by 2 videos. So it's like a Monday, Wednesday, Friday release. So we're going to see. I don't know. I'm interested. I'm excited, but it could go anywhere. The idea is for this to be about 30-ish minutes, maybe 45 minutes, give or take, on each episode. Where I came up with that number is because my commute is about 30 minutes, and a lot of podcasts are too long, and I have this really weird thing about not being able to finish a podcast on my commute. So I really want to make sure that that this is just about long enough for anyone's commute. So the idea is we're probably going to go through some modules. My goal is eventually to find a little fun segment or two to put into these. We're going to see. I'm going to try one today, and we'll see if it clings, if anyone actually ends up watching this or listening to it, hopefully. But we'll see. So let's kind of jump in. So we're going to go ahead and start with our industry news, our gencon news, because guess what? Gencon is this week, or this weekend. And boy, am I jealous. I have been wanting to go to gencon for a really long time. I got into the board game hobby a long time ago. In fact, I think I must have been 7 or 8 years old when my brother actually sat down and played Catan with me. It was him and his friends, and I was taking turns with him at that age. But it was the first board game other than Monopoly that I got to play, and I remember being very obsessed with it. And I never got to play it again until I was maybe in college. And at that point, I was starting to play some other games. I had played by then Scythe. I think, no, I hadn't played Scythe yet. I'm a little bit further ahead of schedule than I thought. But I remember a friend of mine was like, we should play Catan. And at the time I was like, that's like a 3 or 4 hour long game. It's not, for those of you who are concerned about that. It is should be an hour and a half, just like Monopoly. Hot take. Monopoly should not take 3 hours. In fact, more times than not, when I have played Monopoly, it's been an hour and a half, maximum of 2 hours. And I'm not talking about a 2-player game. I am talking about anywhere from 4 to 6 players. If your games of Monopoly are taking that long, then you almost certainly are playing with one of those made up house rules that people have come up with, where you put all of your money under free parking. Surprise, surprise, it's not an actual rule. Or the biggest thing that I learned is that when you move in Monopoly, if you don't purchase the space, then it goes up for auction, which means all of the spaces pretty much get bought up within the first 2 rounds of rolling, right? Especially if you play with a lot of players. So your game shouldn't take that long. And I'm going to do another hot take. I actually really like Monopoly. I will play Monopoly when people offer it, especially for those who might want to play a board game, but they are definitely like for instance, my mom is not into board games. And if she was like, but I'll play Monopoly, I 100% would drop that on the table and be like, we're playing. Anyways, so Gen Con, as I go on my rant, I already knew that this was going to happen in this, but I'm going to try my best to stay focused during these situations. So, but Gen Con is going on. It's the U.S. version of Essen Spiel, I guess you could say. So many things happen. So many games get released. And this year seems really interesting. A few years back, 2024, I felt like that was the best Gen Con releases we had. If you look back at BGG and you look at the games that were released during 2024, and a lot of them being announced during Gen Con, you had Civolution, you had, I'm going to blank on all of them right now. Civolution was one of the bigger ones that I remember, but in 2024, you had Slay the Spire, the board game. You had the Seven Wonders of Duel, but for Middle Earth, the Lord of the Rings version. You had, I'm looking around my games, trying to remember. I think Shackleton Base was also 2024 Gen Con. It might have been an Essen release, but I think we knew about it in Gen Con. But I just feel like 2024 was such a great year, and this year seems like it's starting to stack up to that. Because here's some games that are noteworthy. One, Drillers from CGE. I keep hearing lots about that. Apparently, it's a deck builder from CGE, and I have seen a few influencers kind of talking about it as is. It looks cool. I think that the idea of mining for resources is kind of fun. I think the artwork looks really good, but really, I mean, honestly, CGE kind of knocks it out of the park every year. I don't think there's really been a year that they've had a dud. In fact, some of the years that I think have had a dud, I still personally really liked. For instance, Evacuation by Vladimir Suchi. I thought that was a really interesting game. I liked it a lot. I played it a good amount. And I kept it for a while. I did end up selling it, and mostly because it was, in my opinion, a great solo game. Otherwise, it felt mostly not quite multiplayer solitaire, but it was going into that territory. And I sold it because I have a lot of Vladimir Suchi games, and I have a lot of solo games that I would kind of rather play, but it was still good. I think if anyone said they would pull out Evacuation, 100%, I'm playing that. But Drillers looks really good. I'm hoping that there's some retail versions in the wild, maybe even today. Maybe I'll see if I can find it, because it's out. It's apparently out. It was supposed to be, let's see, today's the 31st. It was supposed to be released yesterday. And according to people on BGG who pre-ordered it from the website, they got it delivered yesterday. And I will say I have pre-ordered from CGE as well as Devere Games. And when they say it gets released, they're very good about it being delivered to your place like day of. So very exciting about that. Another game that's on not a game, but an expansion that I can't wait for is the surprise shipment for Lost Ruins of Arnak, again by CGE. Oh my gosh. Lost Ruins of Arnak is, spoilers, in my top 10 games of the year. You'll see my top 10 games on Monday. It releases. And I love Arnak. I will always play Arnak. And when someone suggests it, I get very excited. It just itches a lot of, or scratches a lot of itches. Itches a lot of scratches. I always say that, and I always realize I'm saying it wrong. But just, Tom Vassell says this on the Dice Tower all the time, which is that he loves expansions with just more stuff. And I 100% agree with that. Like, when you have an expansion that is just, here's some extra cards, or, here's maybe even an extra asymmetric player, or whatever it may be. I love that kind of stuff. When you start getting into that territory of here's an expansion and it adds this whole new board and a whole new mechanic, I like those too. I'm not nagging on those. But it does require an extra set of learning, which also means that you may not get it to the table. I think we all know in the board game hobby, we're all overzealous about buying expansions to games we haven't played yet. And I am no exception to that. So I think that, this is one of those types of expansions that is great because you can buy the base game and then buy this at the same time. I was kind of hoping when it said surprise shipment that the legendary box, or what's it called, the adventure chest would actually be being redone. Luckily, I got my hands on an adventure chest, and I got it from a retailer. I happened to be at the game store a few months back, and they had one, and I thought I had totally missed out on this because it had already been sold out everywhere. And I am so glad I picked it up because I was getting to the point with all the expansions. I had it in multiple boxes. So let's keep moving on. We're going to go on to All Play. All Play's doing, it looks like two different games. One, their biggest game that they're talking about right now is Mountain Goats Legacy. I don't know if you've played Mountain Goats or if you've played Can't Stop from Sid Saxon, old game. Love Can't Stop. If you're a fan of quick games and or you don't mind playing online, go to BGA, Board Game Arena, and sign up and play Can't Stop. It's my most played game ever, mostly because of that. And a game takes 2 to 5 minutes online, and so you can just knock out a bunch, especially if you're bored at work. Don't nobody tell anyone that I said that to you. But it's just a fantastic, quick dice rolling game with some probabilities. Great for kids to learn, numbers, addition, probabilities, luck, so on and so forth. So Mountain Goats, it has a very similar feel to it, except that in Can't Stop, when you roll 4 dice, you're picking 2 pairs, or you're picking pairs of dice that allow you to move up onto some of these tracks. And you only get 3 of these markers. So once you use those 3 markers, the whole thing is if you roll up, your 4 dice and none of those pairs come out to where one of those 3 markers are on a scale of 2 to 12, then you bust and you don't get to move up at all. In Mountain Goats, you roll 4 dice, except you get to make whatever combinations you want. So you could use all 4 dice as singular dice. You could use 3 dice as one and 1 dice as another one. And I think that's really cool. I like that idea. Also in Mountain Goats, once you get to the top of one of these, you actually stay there and you start collecting and racking up these points while another player tries to knock you off. So Mountain Goats Legacy, I'm actually really excited for, just because I do like my legacy games, and especially small legacy games. I've been wanting to get more into those. And so Mountain Goats Legacy, though, apparently is a little bit more modular than it is legacy. So we're going to see what that actually entails. The other game from All Play is Enchanted Ivy. I just kind of quickly looked at this one because it caught my eye. Solo game, which is always fun, and it seems like it's a solo game where you have these cards and you're making rows and columns, and you're trying to score for certain points for some of these, guests. I'm going to be honest, it sounds very derivative of any other tile laying game. But we'll see. You never really know. There might be a twist. There's not a lot of information on it quite yet. And so, yeah. Next up is Red Raven Games 6 Sojourn. I remember this being on Kickstarter, and I remember coming very close to backing it, and I don't remember why I didn't back it. There was some aspect to it that I didn't. But I know it's picking up in popularity. I know it was very popular, definitely funded. But it's going to be there at Gen Con. And so if anyone happens to get their hands on it or has any ideas about it, please let me know because I am curious. Next up, we have Cardboard Alchemy's Whisper Wood. Whisper Wood. Wow, that's a hard one to say. Just like Meeple Mythos. The first time I said that, man, you have no many times I had to take of that. Meeple Mythos. Anyways, Cardboard Alchemy, Whisper Wood, which is different from I think CGE's Wispwood. But Cardboard Alchemy's Whisperwood does look very promising. Let me just bring it up here because I think there was some interesting stuff about it. It's a bag builder, and I love myself some bag builders. But it's also going to come out in 2027. So I think they're probably showing it off today at Gen Con or this weekend, but I don't think they have anything for sale yet. Sandra Tang coming back as artwork for Whisperwood. So looks very cool. Again, not a ton of information quite yet, so we're gonna see, as it goes along. But I am excited. Cardboard Alchemy is slowly becoming one of my top publishers. You've got Andromeda's Edge right up there. I also have not Flamecraft, but Flamecraft Duels, which is fun. I may do a review of that eventually. It's good, but not the best. And so that's that. Then we've got Bull Mansion Studio. This one is from Bull Mansion Studios. It's Grunts with a Z. I have seen a couple pictures of this. It looks really cool. When I first saw pictures of this, I thought, again, this is Toy Battle from this past year, but smaller almost. It looks tiny. The box I think is like maybe this big, maybe it's not 2 inches by 2. That'd be a little small, but it's probably about like half a foot by half a foot. It's a tiny little box, and it looks like, and it says it's a rock paper scissors based gameplay, which is really cool. In Toy Battle, it was really just a war style game where a higher number beats a lower number. But in this one, there's rock paper scissors where I think like a grunt loses to a tank, but a tank loses to an aircraft, but an aircraft loses to a grunt, or something like that. I don't remember exactly what it is, but it looks very cool. A lot of people were saying it's an interesting style game, so I almost certainly will probably be picking that up, especially if the price is right. Some of these smaller games, living in the US right now, we have a lot of these, increased prices of board games for various reasons, and especially with Kickstarter games, things are just getting really expensive, so it's becoming harder to get these games. And then finally, we have Mind Clash Games Revenant. Revenant's coming to retail, or it is at retail. I know it hit the web store 2 days ago. I saw the ad, or I saw the post on Instagram. So if you have not already, shameful plug, check out my review of the solo mode for Revenant and the playthrough. The review is already out, so I'm going to tell you what I think about it. I think it's a great game. I love that game. I will say the solo mode is great. I very much like it more multiplayer. I think the multiplayer, it's much more elevated. I believe I gave it a 7.2 as a solo mode, but I think I have it as an 8.1 when I play the multiplayer. There is a tension in that game that exists that is in the solo game, but so much more in the multiplayer. Because you have to worry about other players moving ships that you don't want moved. And you are also at the mercy of these individuals who, they know you're going for red. So they're going to move that red dropship into a space with tons of Voidborn. And you're done with your turns because you only get 3 per round. And they're also have their frigate there, and so they're going to get to choose where the damage goes. And so you just lost the ship, and it's such a great, it's great. So if you were not thinking about picking it up, I highly recommend it. It is heavy. It is a heavy game. It's a complex game. I don't think it's that bad. I think you're okay. You can watch my very shallow solo mode how to play. Or the playthrough to get a full idea of how to play the game. But I mentioned that Gaming Rules has a full official how to play, and that's the one I highly recommend you watch that anytime you get a chance. So that's Revenant. I have the Admiral edition, but the retail is, personally, I think it's superior. And so we're actually going to kind of hop from, well, actually, there was one more thing I wanted to talk about GenCon. And that is Felicia Day and Will Wheaton seem to be doing a new show, I think on YouTube. And there's going to be a Kickstarter for it called Conludo, or Conlude. I don't know how to say it. And if you guys are fans of Will Wheaton's tabletop back in the day, this really put a smile on my face, because I think for years people have been really people were sad tabletop ended, especially when it seemed like it was getting going. There's not like a ton of episodes. There's a fair amount. And man, I think people were really itching for that. And so I'm really excited for that. I'm really, really excited for that. If they get the right guests, if they pick the right games, it's going to be great. Because that's really what they did. I mean, that channel was what got me into a higher level of board gaming, where I had played Catan and I had heard about other games, but that was the channel that I found Munchkin, which I have my own thoughts about it now. But when you have never really played these games before, oh my gosh, Munchkin's a magical game. And I think for a lot of people, it's a magical game when you first play it, and then you play it a couple more times and you see its flaws. But you also have them playing, I think, 5 Tribes. I mean, man, 5 Tribes is amazing. You have them playing Fury of Dracula. First time I saw that, I was like, wow, this is what games can be. So I'm very excited about that. But we're going to see some more news. I mean, today, this is a Friday, so really Gen Con is kind of just getting started. Yesterday was day 1, today's day 2. We still have a couple more days to see anything else getting dropped, but I think for the most part, any kind of surprise shipment is kind of done. So, okay, so I kind of want to backtrack a little bit and go into a quicker deep dive for Revenant, and that's to kind of go back to really talking about Revenant and its additions. So today I made a post on Instagram, kind of just showcasing some minis I've painted, but also ranking them because so many games now, especially on Kickstarter, come out with these, robust amount of minis, and some people will spend lots of money using them or buying them and not painting them. Totally, that's fine. I totally get. In fact, I used to have so many games that had minis that I never ever thought I was going to paint. I've recently, in the last year-ish, really have learned with slap chop method to paint them quickly, so I can have fully painted games. And personally, I like it quite a bit. But a lot of these games, even with having the minis painted, it's just kind of troublesome. Like Revenant. Revenant is one of those games where I painted the minis and they're cool. You can put little, damage markers on them. That's about it. I think the extra setup is probably not worth it. Seeing as the cardboard looks great, that the detail and the artwork is there, and it's still double-sided or double layered. Sorry, so dual layered, not double layered, dual layered. Oh my gosh. It's still dual layered, so I think that really the retail version is kind of the way to go, unless you just really want minis to paint. The box is really big too. Like, I think the retail version with just the cardboard is going to be much smaller. I really wish I had just gone for that one. Anyways, that's Revenant's my little spiel about that, because don't have FOMO. Do not have FOMO for this one. You're not missing out. I haven't tried the Faith and Reason expansion. I don't know if that comes in the retail. Again, you're going to get a lot of plays out of it without it, and even then, the expansions are really tiny. They're just modular. One adds a science vessel ship that lets you get some research tokens. I want to play it again with it solo just to try it out and see how much I can actually get done. But you only have 3 actions still, so it's not like any of these modules adds like a 4th action to let you do these things. So it just opens the decision space a lot more, and the decision space is already pretty big. So I wouldn't worry too much about that. But if you get a chance to play Revenant this weekend, if you're watching this, listening to this, whatever, and you're at Gen Con, you're headed to Gen Con, you pick it up at Gen Con and you go home this week, play it. It's so fun. They really did a great job. I almost didn't back it, and when I watched some gameplay, I forget with who, I was very concerned because I play games mostly solo and at 2-player, and so the idea of those house tracks moving up and down, or moving up and trying to vie for the house with the most ships, I thought it felt like very area control, and I thought it would only play well at 3 and 4 players. It actually plays really well at 2 players, and like I said, it plays well at solo. So yeah, let's move on to the next segment. The next segment is something I'm going to try out, and it's what is coming in the mail. I back a lot of Kickstarters, as all board gamers do. I also buy lots of games, from different places. So this is essentially an opportunity for me to be like, hey, this is what's coming in the mail. I'm only going to highlight, one item or something like that, or maybe something I've recently gotten in the last couple of days, since I, again, plan on doing this at least once a week. And today is very special. Today is super special. And that's because the newest game from Japan, from Hiroaki Yamada, who, if you know, did Eternal Decks, which, if you have not gotten to play, is... It will, once I get my US copy finally from Portland Games Collective, I'm almost certain it may climb very close to my top 10. But this is Eternal Sevens. Eternal Sevens is his newest game, and it is a play on apparently a game I'd never heard of this game before, called Sevens or Seven, where the idea is it's a hand shedding game where you normally start at 7, someone places 7 and you go up or down by 1 value. Again, I've never played Sevens, but there's some twists, and it still has that Eternal deck feel where you have Eternals that you're doing stuff with. But that game is coming in for me today from Japan. I happened to be in Japan when he put up the pre-orders from his PayPal for US. And I was fortunate enough to be able to order it right away, since he also lives in Japan. And that meant that I was able to pre-order it. Whereas some of my friends, they woke up, later that day in the US. And by then his PayPal had already been flagged because there were so many orders. And so he had to wait for his PayPal to reopen, which has now been reopened, and he can do those pre-orders again. But I got very lucky. And so it's coming in today. It came very quickly after he shipped it. I think he shipped it. I think I got the email on like a Monday, and it got here from Tokyo, and it's out for delivery right now. So very excited. I'm going to see if there's a solo mode. I don't think there is a solo mode. If there is, I might play it today. But tomorrow I'm going to have a meetup, and we are all very much fans of Eternal Decks, so we are all very excited to play this. So maybe next day on the podcast, I will show you guys or tell you guys what it is. If there is a solo mode, I probably will play it. I probably will film it, and I probably will review it. And if not, then I will probably still play it, but I will just do a review of it as a multiplayer game. And so I'm very excited about that. I think that it sounds very cool. But that's what's coming in the mail for me today. I have some other stuff, but I'll share that later. One of them is Duel of Melloc and Wingspan Pocket, except that was a champion order for myself, and that should have been delivered a long time ago because I ordered it the day it got up, but something happened with my address. So I will talk more about that next time. But we're going to go ahead and end it here today. And I hope you guys enjoyed listening to this. I hope that it was at least interesting to hear my voice, if I wasn't spewing out any news that wasn't noteworthy. But we're excited. I'm excited to keep this going, and hopefully hear back from you guys and see what you guys liked, what you guys didn't like. But that's going to be the idea. We're going to, start with some news, start with some deep dives, maybe do a little segment called What's in the Mail, and move on from there. And so if you like this, I've never done a podcast, so leave a like, I guess, maybe, or download, or whatever you do on these podcasts. And so otherwise, if you're at Gen Con, you happen to be listening to this, please have fun, have a blast. It sounds like you guys are. If you're not at Gen Con and you're like me and you're crying on the side of the couch because you don't get to go to Gen Con anytime soon, then, solidarity to us. And bust out your favorite solo game and let's play it, So hopefully you guys have a good rest of your day, a good rest of your weekend. And until next time, this is Meeple Mythos. Thanks for listening.